So we finally got to try out the brand new land spears that are coming with the next expansion, Janthir Wilds, during another beta event. As a Rev main, I was pretty excited to try out the new Revenant Spear, which looks like a mostly condition damage weapon with some very interesting mechanics and a sort of hybrid melee and ranged design. So let's jump right in. Honest here, my initial first reaction was a little bit disappointed. The spear didn't look like it was designed how I was hoping that it was going to be designed, and it even repeated a mistake that they made from Revenant's previous new weapon, the Scepter. However, they did end up fixing most of the issues with the Scepter, so I'm hopeful that they'll make a couple of changes to the spear as well, because this weapon does have potential. So let's go over why that is. So the very first thing that I noticed is this weapon is just way too damn slow. I feel like all of the cast times and animations are in slow motion, especially the auto attack. And I was actually hoping for the exact opposite of this. What I was hoping for was a fast casting, long range weapon that can tag enemies easily in the open world. So I was extra disappointed about this. And that actually brings me into my next disappointment, the range. The spear is a very awkward 600 range, which feels very annoying at times in the open world when I can't hit something that seems so close, and it seems like I should definitely be able to hit that with a ranged weapon. I felt like I was just kind of learning to not rely on the ranged component at all, and just treat it as a melee weapon. The good news is, in the live stream that ArenaNet did where they first previewed the weapon, one of the first things that they mentioned was that they were thinking about upping it to 900 range, which would make it the same as the short bow. So it seems very possible that this could get changed, and I'm really hoping that is the case. After using it for a little bit longer, the next thing that I noticed is the skill 5, which is very clearly designed to be essentially spammed as your main damaging component, uses too much energy. Basically, the design of the spear is that skill 5 has these multiple charges, and every time you hit something with it, it gives you stacks of a buff that increase your damage. And all of the other spear skills decrease the cooldown of this skill 5. So it's very clear they want you to be spamming the skill 5 as often as possible, and then using the other spear skills to basically be able to spam it even more. However, it has an energy cost of 10, which is just too high for a skill that is designed to be used constantly. Especially when you're running Herald or Renegade Elite Specs, you're usually using upkeep skills a lot with those builds, which constantly drain your energy. And I was personally most excited to try the spear out with Herald, but because of this, it actually ended up feeling the best paired with Vindicator. Since on Vindicator, you're not using any upkeep skills when you're in the Vindicator stance, and you have access to Energy Meld, the F2 skill, which can be used to give you some extra energy in combat. So maybe a Condi or Celestial Vindicator might be a good fit for this weapon for open world stuff. But yeah, it almost feels like they forgot about Revenant's energy management when designing the spear, which is the same thing they did with Revenant's last new weapon, the Scepter. When that thing was first released, the tether skill used far too much energy, but they did end up fixing that before it was fully released. So I'm hoping that they do this with the spear as well. The next thing that I noticed is the spear in general just doesn't feel like it has a strong identity or feels like a large gap in weapons for Revenant. At least the Scepter filled like the main hand support weapon that was needed for Revenant. Spear is just basically another two-handed Condi weapon, which we already have a great selection of condition weapons in general. The mace and axe are great for conditions, and the short bow is a fantastic two-handed condition weapon. The spear just kind of feels like short bow, but more spammy, shorter range, less hard CC, as well as less condition variety. It's pretty much mostly just chill spear. Not ideal. Another thing that I noticed is the skill 3, which is a very short range evading dash, which drops these mines behind you, which explode when an enemy walks into them, functioned very strangely, and I'm not sure if it's a bit buggy or not, but it seems like the number of mines that are left behind is somewhat random, or maybe inconsistent is a better word. It seems like the further distance you travel, the more mines that it drops, but only sort of. So you get, on average, more mines when moving forwards while casting it, and less mines on average if you cast it without moving. But sometimes I would get 3 mines while moving, sometimes 4, and similarly, sometimes I would get 2 or 3 mines just randomly while casting it without moving. I have one theory which is pretty half-baked, but after chatting with a couple of other players, it seemed like they were consistently getting more mines than me, and they had much lower ping than I did. Being Australian, I have pretty consistently high ping, around about the 250 to 300 range. And man, I really hope this isn't ping causing this, because I already cop enough for having high ping. I certainly don't need like a hard mechanical disadvantage for using this weapon as well. But it is just a theory, but I couldn't figure out for the life of me any other reason why the mines were so inconsistent. Alright, so I just listed out a bunch of negatives about this weapon. So why do I think it still has potential? Well, the main thing that I actually like about this weapon is it actually feels pretty fun to use. The design of focusing on skill 5 to build up stacks, and using the other skills to shorten the cooldown of skill 5 to then use it even more, that's pretty cool, and it has kind of a nice flow to it and sort of a rhythm to it that I started to notice the more I used it. I probably had the most fun using it on a Condition Vindicator build in the open world, which is pretty much just because of the energy management issue that I mentioned earlier. I felt very energy starved on Herald and Renegade, but on Vindicator I'm not constantly draining my energy unless I'm in like Demon stance, and I have access to that F2 skills, which gives me a little burst of extra energy when I need it, which felt pretty good. And not only that, but out of all of the negatives, most of them are easy fixes by just kind of changing some numbers. So here are the 3 main things that I want to see changed for Revenant Spear before the full release that I think will vastly improve it. Number 1, faster animations and cast times. It has to be sped up a little bit at least. It has to be. It's too slow. Number 2, they have to make it at least 900 range. It has to be at least like on par with short bow. Otherwise, I just can't justify taking it over short bow. And 3, energy cost reduction on Spear 5. They have to make Spear 5 cost less energy. I think they could easily half the energy cost, but I'll take whatever I can get, to be honest. And if I'm really pushing my luck, then I have a couple of copium changes that I'd like to see as well. These are just kind of if I'm being greedy. So 1, I want more damage. It doesn't hit very hard. And 2, Spear 3, the dash, I want that to dash a little bit further, so it's more useful for mobility in PvE. This skill seems actually pretty useful in PvP. From a non-PvP player's perspective, it looks like it'd be pretty good for like disengaging, but in PvE, it's only really useful for some extra damage. It really doesn't go very far, and it doesn't feel that great to use in open world. After doing some very quick and dirty damage testing on the Golem with some very unrefined builds, I managed to get the highest DPS on Renegade actually, which surprised me a little bit, but it might just be because like the Kala stance utility skills are very condition focused. But being the highest damage is simply not enough to make me play Renegade with Spear in its current format, because I was the most energy starved on Renegade. It does not feel good to play. I felt like I never had enough energy to do anything. But yeah, keep in mind, I'm no build crafter. This was just some quick and dirty testing. So it's entirely possible that another elite spec could hit the highest DPS with this weapon with an optimal build and rotation. And we'll just have to see what the nerds come up with. So yeah, a little bit of mixed thoughts for this new weapon for Revenant. Hopefully they make some of these changes. I'll be sure to make a follow-up video on any changes that they do, like I did with the Scepter. So double check that you're subscribed so you don't miss that. And that'll just about do it for me. Off you go, little man. Get out of here.